Birth is the manifestation of the self into the world, safeguarded within the constraints of the physical body for the purpose of preservation. Without the body, the self could not experience, nor could the self be experienced, or therefore known in a world where only things exist. All the tools that were added unto man to aid in his development, associated with the mind, body, and soul, were given as tools to serve the living and divine purpose through various forms of involvement that is holistically incomprehensible by the majority of beings due to restricted awareness. When one is attempting to gain spiritual insight by use of visual perception, the deduction will always give rise to the energies that are formed within, which are none other than thoughts. Thoughts are the basis of speculation. Speculation is insubstantial, revealed as inconsistencies, contradictions, with deadlocks, which leaves liberty for human detractions and additions. That which is concrete, real, or true cannot be humanly deducted from or added to. This is a deliberation that man must use to verify all of existence, a fine expression of MAAT. It is our physical being that allows for the living eye to have involvement in the world. Yet it is the living eye, when unrestricted, that guides our being into the complexes of reality. Our physical perceptions allow us to see, hear, taste, smell, and feel. These senses thus permit us to interact in a world that is completely objective, allowing us to undergo that which is fact-based. Yet, these very senses that allow us to experience are totally dependent upon that which cannot be seen, that which is independent. These objects are the very reflection of the unknown. Yet, because many of us are unable to distinguish between the real and the illusion, we become subsequently trapped within the scopes of deception. These very same deceptions are ultimately responsible for restricting our spiritual progression and further contribute to our ignorance of the subjective world that bears our very existence. Deceptions are impermanent and can be identified through its flexibility. It can be manipulated into various forms depending on the needs of the deceiver. Deception is always debatable and always overtaken by reality. Reality just is, and thus requires no argument, just simple discovery. And those who watch closely and seek to discover will eventually do so through the divine expression of reality. We are individualized characters of the Almighty powers, distinctive worlds within the whole, with the intent to unify and attain a peaceful balance within our own worlds, so that the universe will be a more pleasant place for all of mankind to dwell. Needless to say, the universe in itself is indeed balanced, for destiny will never cease to move forward while upholding righteousness, as it will never cease to maintain the constant flow of equilibrium which protects all of mankind from ultimately self-destruction. Therefore, it is safe to say, when given time, justice will naturally prevail. After in-depth observation, one must conceive that there is another world outside of the world that we currently know. In order to experience this, one must be able to logically deduct from what is already known. One cannot experience truth through simple hearing or reading about it. Neither can one deduct from that which he does not know. It will be up to the individual to commit to doing the works which will prove it for himself. Overstanding is a product of knowledge. It is then highly recommended that he concludes his findings by way of deep introspection, in order to see the underlying structure of the whole. One must be able to fully experience in order to inherently perceive. Without having to go into the depths of creation, let's move ahead into the sphere of existence where all is known, polarity. Most have discovered through scientific evaluation, whether in school or through the observance of nature, that everything in the known world has a polarity or an opposite. Some refer to these polarities as male and female principles, others good and evil, or God and Satan. These are indeed dualities, and everything that exists cannot exist without an equal contrast. As such, visibility cannot exist without invisibility. Even with the physical body, there are parallels working together as a way to keep the body functioning as a whole. All interdependent, all interrelated, all interconnected. The truest example of divine balance and love is within this relationship. In every situation, no matter how small or large, one can witness the divine laws of MAAT functioning as a whole. With all of this, one must then concede that there must be a world outside of that which cannot be seen by the naked eye. In fact, the world that we dwell in is the reproduction of the world that is not acknowledged by most of mankind, who unknowingly is dependent upon this world for their very survival. This is the spiritual universe in which all knowledge emanates. This is where the essence of totality resides. This is where one has the ability to experience the divine being on a higher plane. We all have access to it. When the two worlds are united, the subjective and the objective, this is the higher power indeed manifested. Everything else is personifications, illustrations, and reflections of the whole. These are the uppermost whispers that verifies the living. When the world, however, is viewed through human eyes, we are able to make out diverse reflections of colors, shapes, and sizes that we assign titles and descriptions based upon our perceptions of it. We become so caught up in the phenomena that we completely ignore or forget the essence that supports it. Our consciousness is therefore externalized. We only recognize what we see, and what we see is not complete. Sight, therefore, does not mean seeing. Some may have noticed that the human never seems to be satisfied. Our insatiability is a simple quest for experience. We want to know because something within us is driving us to know, to experience, to discover. This is the core that is urging to balance, to unite the whole, and although the living self is guiding through our higher nature that we have yet to realize, we choose only to pursue the lower nature because it's all that we physically know. What is the principle behind the nerves that allow us to feel? The essence that allows us to be receptive to human senses? Medical science, discovery, knowledge uses externals of the world to explain the functions of these senses. Yet, what is the principles behind these sciences? One will find, if we continue to search as far as this discovery will allow us to humanly travel, that we will reach a point where the essence of these externals can only be intrinsically explained. The further back we travel, the more questions are aroused, which eventually renders man incapable of using the externals of the world to clarify what is. At this point, man has no other choice but to acknowledge the existence of a far greater intelligence other than the known. The known then becomes the unknown, yet can be proven to be the living. The physical plane with all of its living objects, to include man together with the spiritual plane, sustains life. Man is the divine reflection of the Creator, as with everything else that exists within the universe. When man realizes his divinity and unites his spirit with it, he is then reflecting the Creator on a more profound level by manifesting his greatness outwardly into the world. Man is then memorialized and upheld by others in a supreme hierarchy. These people are who we refer to as sages, shephs, and prophets, both men and women alike. These men united their persons with their higher nature and allowed the divine to express itself in the fullness of light, once again proving its existence by allowing its presence to be known. So I ask again, who is God? God is totality, and man is the personification of totality. We are divine manifestations of dual forms, seeking to be whole, urging for a peaceful balance which can only be attained through learning, applying, and living the laws which govern the universe. What image, human, or object can compare to the divine powers, or even represent it? Nothing born or made by man can ever stand in its place, for it is the essence behind all of existence. Therefore, when we are venerating the divine through any form of prayer or introspection, one should never put forth any type of image in his head to keep him mindful or help him to reinforce concentration of such a vast power. What we should be mindful of is that it cannot be limited by names, titles, images, or objects. Peace.